Oh, sorry, baby.
Major to you.
Why, sorry, Major, baby.
You're both a disgrace to this outfit.
Oh, come on, Frank. We've all had 12 straight hours of meatball surgery in there. My brain is sending me urgent rest telegrams.
The finale of m.a.s.h. drew 105.9 million viewers, making it the most watched TV episode in American history. But February 28, 1983, one cast member hid a secret in the final shot that would remain buried for decades. When Hawkeye's helicopter lifted off, he looked down to see stones spelling goodbye, a touching farewell. But that wasn't what Mike Farrell originally arranged. His first message was so personal and shocking that the director had to land the helicopter and demand he change it. What did BJ Honeycutt really want to say? m.a.s.h. premiered on September 17, 1972, based on the 1970 Robert Altman film about a mobile army surgical hospital during the Korean War. The show's creator, Larry Gelbart, transformed Altman's dark comedy into something unprecedented for television, a series that could make audiences laugh and cry within the same episode. The show tackled serious subjects like war, death, and morality while maintaining its signature humour. The original cast included Alan Alda as Benjamin Franklin Hawkeye Pierce, Wayne Rogers as Trapper John McIntyre, and McLean Stevenson as Lieutenant Colonel Henry Blake. The chemistry between these actors was immediate and electric. Hawkeye's irreverent humour and medical expertise made him the perfect protagonist for a show that needed to balance comedy with the harsh realities of war. The series quickly established itself as more than just entertainment. It became a cultural phenomenon that reflected America's complicated relationship with the Vietnam War. Despite being set during the Korean conflict, the show's writers weren't shy about addressing controversial topics. They tackled racism, sexism, mental health, and the psychological toll of war with a sophistication rarely seen on television. By its third season, m.a.s.h. had become CBS's most valuable property. The show consistently ranked in the top 10, often claiming the #1 spot. Critics praised its writing, acting, and willingness to take risks. The series won numerous Emmy Awards and Golden Globes, cementing its place in television history. But behind the cameras, tensions were building. The demanding schedule and intense subject matter were taking their toll on the cast and crew. Some actors were beginning to question their long-term commitment to the series, setting the stage for dramatic changes that would reshape the show's dynamic. The end of m.a.s.h.'s third season brought devastating news that would change the show forever. Wayne Rogers, who played Trapper John, announced he was leaving the series. His departure was sudden and acrimonious, stemming from contract disputes and his frustration with Alan Alda's growing influence over the show's direction. Rogers felt his character had become secondary to Hawkeye, and he wanted out. McLean Stevenson, who played the beloved Colonel Blake, also decided to leave. His departure was kept secret from most of the cast until the final episode of Season 3 was filmed. The writers crafted one of television's most shocking moments, Henry Blake's death in a plane crash while flying home. The scene was so emotional that even the cast members who knew it was coming broke down during filming. The show's producers faced a massive challenge: how to replace two popular characters without destroying the show's chemistry. They made a bold decision to bring in two new actors who would become just as beloved as their predecessors. Mike Farrell joined as Captain BJ Honeycutt, Hawkeye's new tent mate and best friend. Harry Morgan was cast as Colonel Sherman Potter, the new commanding officer. Mike Farrell's casting was particularly crucial. The producers needed someone who could match Alan Alda's acting ability and develop a believable friendship with Hawkeye. Farrell, a veteran actor with stage and television experience, brought a different energy to the role. While Trapper John had been Hawkeye's partner in pranks and womanizing, BJ was more mature, married, and morally grounded. The transition wasn't easy. Fans were skeptical about the new cast members, and the actors themselves felt enormous pressure to live up to their predecessors. But gradually, the new dynamic began to work. Hawkeye and BJ's friendship became one of television's most compelling relationships, built on mutual respect, shared trauma, and genuine affection. Mike Farrell's portrayal of BJ Honeycutt evolved dramatically over the show's final 8 seasons. Initially conceived as a replacement for Trapper John, BJ quickly became his own character with distinct motivations and personality traits. Unlike his predecessor, BJ was deeply committed to his wife Peg and daughter Erin back home in California. This family connection became a central part of his character development. Farrell brought a method acting approach to the role, drawing from his own experiences as a husband and father. He insisted on making BJ more than just comic relief or a sounding board for Hawkeye's jokes. The writers responded by giving BJ increasingly complex storylines that explored his struggles with the war, his longing for home, and his evolving friendship with Hawkeye. One of the most significant aspects of BJ's character was his moral compass. While Hawkeye often bent rules and pushed boundaries, BJ served as a stabilizing influence. He was willing to stand up to authority when necessary, but he did so with a quiet dignity that contrasted with Hawkeye's more flamboyant protests. This dynamic created compelling dramatic tension and realistic character growth. Behind the scenes, Mike Farrell was becoming increasingly involved in the show's creative process. He worked closely with writers to develop BJ's character arc and often suggested storylines that would explore deeper themes. Farrell's commitment to the role extended beyond acting. He became invested in the show's anti-war message and its exploration of moral complexity. The relationship between Farrell and Alan Alda grew both on and off screen. They developed a genuine friendship that informed their characters' relationship. Their chemistry was so natural that many viewers forgot BJ hadn't been part of the show from the beginning. This friendship would prove crucial in the show's final episodes, particularly in the planning of the series finale. By 1982, m.a.s.h had been on the air for over a decade, an unprecedented run for a television series. The show remained popular, but several factors were pushing toward a conclusion. Alan Alda, who had become the show's de facto leader, was exhausted by the demanding schedule and ready to move on to other projects. The Korean War setting had lasted longer on television than the actual war had lasted in real life. The decision to end the series was made collectively by the cast, crew, and network executives. Unlike many shows that are cancelled unexpectedly, m.a.s.h would have the luxury of crafting its own conclusion. The writers began planning a 2.5-hour finale that would provide closure for every character and storyline that had developed over 11 seasons. The finale, titled Goodbye, Farewell, and Amen, was conceived as a television movie rather than a simple episode. The story would be split into 2 parts, with the first half focusing on the characters' final cases and the second half dealing with their emotional farewells. Every detail was planned months in advance, from the medical storylines to the final shots. Mike Farrell was particularly invested in how BJ's story would conclude. He had spent 8 years developing the character, and he wanted BJ's goodbye to Hawkeye to be meaningful and memorable. The writers had already planned several emotional scenes between the 2 characters, but Farrell felt something was missing, a final gesture that would encapsulate their friendship. The idea for the Stone message came during a writers' meeting in late 1982. Someone suggested that BJ should leave a goodbye message for Hawkeye, something that would be visible from the helicopter as he flew away. The concept was simple but powerful, a final communication between friends who had shared the most intense experiences of their lives. As production began on the m.a.s.h finale in January 1983, Mike Farrell started developing his own ideas for the Stone message scene. The official script called for BJ to spell out goodbye, with rocks arranged on the helicopter landing pad. It was a touching gesture that would provide closure for the characters and the audience. But Farrell had something else in mind. In the weeks leading up to filming, Farrell confided in a few close friends about his real intentions. He wanted to create a personal message that would reflect his genuine feelings about ending the show and saying goodbye to his television family. The actor had formed deep bonds with his colleagues over 8 years, and he felt the scripted message was too generic for such a momentous occasion. Farrell's plan was simple but risky. He would arrange the Stones to spell out his intended message during the first take of the helicopter scene. The aerial shot would capture his personal goodbye before anyone on the ground could see what he had actually written. Only when the footage was reviewed would the directors and producers discover his substitution. The actor spent considerable time planning the exact wording of his message. It needed to be something that would make sense to Alan Alda and the other cast members, but it also had to be appropriate for television. Farrell was walking a fine line between personal expression and professional responsibility. He knew his gesture might be seen as unprofessional, but he felt the importance of the moment justified the risk. The secrecy surrounding Farrell's plan added an element of tension to the final days of filming. Cast and crew members noticed he was spending extra time around the helicopter landing area. but most assumed he was simply preparing for his emotional scenes. No one suspected that the mild-mannered actor was planning to hijack one of television's most important moments. February 21st, 1983, marked the filming of m.a.s.h's final exterior scenes at the Malibu Creek State Park location that had served as the 4077 for 11 years. The atmosphere on set was emotional and tense, with cast and crew members struggling to maintain their composure as they filmed the end of television history. Everyone knew they were participating in something special, but the pressure was enormous. The helicopter scene was scheduled for late afternoon, when the California light would be perfect for the aerial shots. Mike Farrell had spent the morning arranging his stones, working carefully to ensure they would be visible from the helicopter while appearing to follow the script. The deception required precise timing and careful positioning. Director David Ogden Stiers, who also played Major Winchester on the show, was focused on capturing the perfect shot. The helicopter pilot had been briefed on the flight path and camera angles needed to show BJ's message clearly. Multiple cameras were positioned to record the scene from different perspectives, ensuring they would have plenty of footage for the final edit. As the helicopter lifted off with Alan Alda aboard, Mike Farrell stood near his stone arrangement, waving goodbye to his television best friend. The cameras rolled, capturing what appeared to be a routine take of the scripted scene. Alda, looking down from the helicopter, could see the stones, but couldn't make out the exact message from his aerial perspective. The first take seemed to go perfectly. The helicopter executed its planned flight path. The cameras captured beautiful footage, and the emotional impact of the scene was everything the directors had hoped for. But as the helicopter landed and the footage was reviewed on portable monitors, the truth about Farrell's deception began to emerge. When the film crew gathered around the monitors to review the first take, they expected to see the touching goodbye message that would close m.a.s.h's 11-year run. Instead, they discovered that Mike Farrell had spelled out something completely different with his carefully arranged stones. The message was personal, intimate, and entirely inappropriate for broadcast television. According to sources who were present that day, Farrell had used the stones to spell out "I love you," a message directed specifically at Alan Alda and their friendship. While the sentiment was genuine and heartfelt, the romantic implications of the phrase made it impossible to use in the final broadcast. The message was too personal and could be misinterpreted by viewers. Director David Ogden Stiers was reportedly stunned by the discovery. He had worked closely with Farrell for years and respected the actor's professionalism, but this deviation from the script put the entire production in jeopardy. The helicopter had been rented for limited time, the crew was working against daylight, and they needed usable footage for the finale. The reaction from other cast and crew members was mixed. Some found Farrell's gesture touching and appreciated the genuine emotion behind it. Others felt it was unprofessional and potentially damaging to the show's reputation. Alan Alda, who had formed a close friendship with Farrell, was reportedly moved by the gesture but understood why it couldn't be used. The discovery created an immediate crisis. The production team had to decide whether to scrap the helicopter scene entirely or find a way to reshoot it quickly. The cost of bringing the helicopter back for another day would be enormous, and the schedule was already tight. They needed a solution that would preserve the emotional impact of the scene while meeting broadcast standards. With daylight fading and the helicopter crew waiting for instructions, the m.a.s.h production team faced one of the most challenging decisions in the show's history. They had spent months planning the finale, and the stone message scene was crucial to the emotional impact they wanted to achieve. But Mike Farrell's unauthorized change had created a problem that required immediate action. Director David Ogden Stiers made the difficult decision to confront Farrell about the substitution. In a private conversation away from the rest of the cast and crew, Stiers explained why the "I love you" message couldn't be used. While he appreciated the genuine emotion behind Farrell's gesture, he needed the actor to understand the broader implications of his actions. Farrell was reportedly embarrassed by the confrontation, but stood by his decision to express his true feelings. He explained that the scripted goodbye felt too impersonal for such an important moment in his life and career. The 8 years he had spent as BJ Honeycutt had been transformative, and his friendship with Alan Alda had become one of the most important relationships in his life. The solution came from an unexpected source. Alan Alda, who had been informed about the situation, suggested that they compromise on the message. Instead of "I love you" or the generic "goodbye," they would use something more personal but still appropriate for broadcast. After quick consultation with the writers, they settled on "goodbye" as the final message. The helicopter was recalled, and Farrell quickly rearranged his stones to spell out the approved message. The second take was filmed just before sunset, creating some of the most beautiful footage in m.a.s.h history. The golden light and emotional weight of the moment combined to create television magic, but few people knew about the drama that had preceded it. The m.a.s.h finale aired on February 28, 1983, to an audience of 105.9 million viewers, a record that still stands today. The stone message scene became one of the most memorable moments in television history, with viewers praising the emotional impact and creative storytelling. The goodbye message appeared to be a perfect conclusion to Hawkeye and BJ's friendship, but the audience had no idea about the drama behind the scenes. For years, the story of Mike Farrell's original message remained a closely guarded secret among the cast and crew. The few people who knew about it were sworn to secrecy, and the unused footage was reportedly destroyed to prevent any future embarrassment. The official story was that the scene had been filmed exactly as scripted, with no complications or changes. The secret began to emerge in the late 1990s when cast members started giving interviews about their experiences on m.a.s.h. During a reunion special, someone mentioned that there had been complications with the final helicopter scene, but they didn't elaborate on the details. Fans began to speculate about what might have happened, but the full story remained hidden. Mike Farrell himself never publicly discussed the incident until a 2008 interview with a television historian. By then, enough time had passed that he felt comfortable sharing the story. He explained his motivations and expressed no regret about his actions, saying that the gesture represented his genuine feelings about ending the show and saying goodbye to his television family. The revelation added a new layer of meaning to the m.a.s.h finale for many fans. The idea that BJ had originally wanted to express his love for Hawkeye, even if it couldn't be broadcast, made the friendship between the characters feel more authentic and emotionally resonant. The secret became part of the show's mythology, passed down through fan communities and television historians. Today, more than 40 years after m.a.s.h ended, the story of Mike Farrell's hidden message continues to fascinate television fans and industry professionals. The incident represents a perfect example of how real emotions can complicate the process of creating fictional entertainment. Farrell's desire to express his genuine feelings created a moment of authentic human drama that was ultimately more compelling than the scripted version. The story also highlights the collaborative nature of television production and the challenges of balancing personal expression with professional responsibilities. Farrell's gesture was both touching and problematic, representing the kind of boundary pushing that made m.a.s.h special, while also creating practical difficulties for the production team. For Mike Farrell, the incident became a defining moment in his career. He had spent 8 years developing BJ Honeycutt into one of television's most beloved characters, and his final gesture represented the culmination of that emotional journey. The fact that his original message couldn't be used made it even more meaningful to him personally. The m.a.s.h finale remains the most watched episode in television history, and the helicopter scene continues to move audiences to tears. The goodbye message has become an iconic moment in popular culture, referenced and parodied countless times. But for those who know the real story, the scene carries additional emotional weight. The secret of Mike Farrell's original message serves as a reminder that even the most carefully planned television moments can be influenced by genuine human emotions. The best entertainment often comes from the intersection of professional craft and personal truth, even when that truth has to be hidden from the audience. Thanks for watching. Click here to check another video and make sure to subscribe to our channel.